Alright everyone, it's time for another dedicated video on the importance of cutting the cable, canceling your newspaper subscription, and ignoring the corporate media. For those who aren't aware of my views on the topic, I'll try to spell it out. I wanted a dedicated video on the topic. Like, if you've already subscribed to me, some of this won't be new. So you'll say, ooh, you're repeating yourself. Yeah, a little bit. I'm doing it for the benefit of, the 10,000 or so new subscribers that are on this channel, since I spoke about this the last time in anything other than just an off-the-cuff remark about how much I friggin' hate the legacy media. The importance is this. Keep this in mind. There is one overarching thing that people must know. They must come about into the knowledge of the fact that this is a real thing. The cable news media and the newsprint media and radio variously, although not completely, it's sort of a different medium because people listen to it on the go. You don't read a newspaper on the go generally unless you're taking public transportation. You're probably not, using the internet when you're driving around. It's just not a thing. You're certainly not watching cable TV. You'd crash into a tree. Those groups are for-profit corporations. They are private corporate endeavors, often multinational in form. CNN, its parent company, it's a multinational corporation. Fox News, parent company, is a multinational corporation. MSNBC, ABC, the list goes on. All of these different groups are owned by corporate entities that traverse national boundaries, national borders. That is, they don't have any specific loyalty to any single state in the world. They can play both sides against one another. In this manner, they can literally start wars and cause people to die just to get a hot story that they can use as clickbait so they can make more money. Don't put it past them to do this. The list of propaganda from the past that we know was literal propaganda, fed by a government of one sort or another, paid for by another corporate entity, the media coming out and endorsing, oh yeah, smoking's fine for you back in the 50s. Yeah, all these scientists that are, all these health professionals are saying it's probably not great to be smoking. They're just full of shit. It's okay to fill your lungs with tar. Drinking, oh yeah, it's fine. Yeah, we just got $1 million from Budweiser to say this, but just ignore that fact. Happens time and time again. These are multinational corporations, number one, with no specific national loyalty. They are for-profit corporate entities, number two. For all of you so-called liberals out there, I would assume this generally rankles you. You're too busy talking about how bad Fox News is. You don't even realize CNN, MSNBC, the New York Times, the Atlantic, WAPO, they're all gobbling up a bunch of so-called evil satanic conservatives right now because they know that Fox News is declining, because Fox keeps abusing its own pundits. Then they're collapsing themselves. I find that funny. I don't have a problem with it. I just wish that all these other news groups would do the same. I predict that they're going to die out faster anyway, though. They'll shoot up because they're absorbing the conservative audience fleeing Fox, because Fox gets rid of O'Reilly and it's might get rid of Sean Hannity at any point now because he refuses to let the Seth Rich stuff go. So they're collapsing as a network. I only hope that this infects these other groups with conservatism, because then when that happens, all the liberals will begin fleeing. Everyone will just end up piling up online. Or they'll listen to Sirius, they'll listen to something on there. They're not going to listen to terrestrial radio. They'll go on demand or something to get their feeds from the internet anyway. That's what'll happen. So that's number one and number two. Number one, they're multinational. Number two, they are for-profit corporations. Number three, when the founders suggested that there should be free press in the United States, and this is a thing in some other Western countries, not so much in Western Europe. Like, you get more free press in Eastern Europe at this point. People are actually allowed to voice their disagreements with, EU policies. You go to Belgium or the UK or something, no, they crack down on all that. The press is either state-run or state-co-opted. Number three, in the 1700s, when the Constitution was penned, what would the term free press actually mean? This is the most important of all. Because Dianne Feinstein and Nancy Pelosi and people like that, and people on the right too, to tell the truth, they think press means cable news, a newspaper, somebody with a journalism degree, some corporation that's partnered with some post-government entity or something like that. That's not actually true, because when the free press idea was concocted by our founders, there was no such thing as a journalism degree. There was no specific dedicated media source to actually go to. The press means the printing press, people at that point using semi-mechanical means to print literature. Free press literally means the dissemination of information and opinion by nonverbal means. This is why it's paired with free speech. Free speech covers, yes, I am standing on the corner, I am saying what I wish to say physically to a live audience. Freedom of the press covers every other medium of human communication, including, by the way, anything on the internet. If you are making vlogs, like I am, if you have a blog, you have a Tumblr, you're going on Reddit, you're disseminating information in any manner that is not strictly verbal and in the presence of others, like literally on a street corner giving a seminar or something. You are partaking in the activities of the press. When people in the government say, Donald Trump, for instance, in his defense, I would say here, when they say he's violating the rights of the press by keeping certain corporate entities, their journalists and reporters, out of the White House press briefings or whatever, he is not violating the freedom of the press in any way, shape, or form. He is going directly to the American people on Twitter, whether you like this fact or not, and he is, in a way, engaged in the activities of the press there. He's disseminating that information in 140 characters or less. Yes, your tweets are explicitly protected under the First Amendment. Your Facebook group is explicitly protected. Your YouTube page is explicitly protected. Now, do corporations, of course, have the right to regulate that content? Yes, within certain boundaries, of course. They typically do. 90% of the onus is on the user, essentially, to abide by their terms of service. You don't have to agree with those terms. You can use some other site if you don't. Ultimately, most social media sites, they're not really that draconian. Facebook's the most draconian. They're the most draconian when it comes to expressing yourself. I mean, there are people, they put like a breastfeeding picture up on there, they get taken down. YouTube has backed off that. Twitter has backed off that. On the idea that, you know, some vague semi-nudity is a problem. YouTube now allows drug-using videos. There are videos of people smoking meth and crack on YouTube, not just, marijuana 420, blaze it, or someone eating some mushrooms. They used to be very draconian about this, to the point at which you'd make an informative video about drugs and it'd get taken down. Now they don't care if you use drugs on camera, so long as you have a disclaimer, bill it as educational, and you have some jump cuts, I guess. By the way, I don't have a problem with that. I don't really care. Yeah, back when I was using these substances, YouTube didn't want me to film these substances and show them off. You know, in my heyday, I didn't get to do that. Now all these so-called educational groups get to. Okay, more power to them. That's okay. I'll cover politics. You go ahead and toxify your mind with mushrooms or whatever you want to do. It's fine with me. A little bit of bitterness there, but not too much. Yeah, I think I've risen above that. I don't need any psychedelics at this point. I'm warped enough as it is. But yeah, keep in mind, the rights of the press literally means the printing press. It's nonverbal dissemination of information. That's the third part. People need to keep these things in mind. Corporate entities that bill themselves as part of the press, that are disseminating information, news, literally, are legally no different from any other average person who is operating online and making a podcast or a vlog. There's no real legal differentiation between them. Having a journalism degree might get you the press credentials required so that politicians and public officials feel comfy talking to you. So you can report. You're reporting for a business entity. They figure, well, it reaches more people than just talking to some random person. It's a good idea because they have a journalism degree. They understand the basics of ethics, and so, you know, maybe they're being more fair. I think we see that beginning to fall apart now, that the corporate press really isn't fair. It's mostly spin and propaganda. And so I would say to you, to all of you, it doesn't matter if you're on the right or on the left, you're libertarian, you're neo-fascist, monarchist, whatever. You should cut the cable because they're lying to you. You should cancel your newspapers because not only are they lying to you, but what the fuck do you use a newspaper for anyway? Do you shred it up and use it to line your bird cage? Do you use it to kindle the campfire in your backyard or something? What are you taking all these sheets of dead tree flesh for and using them for anyway? You read one story in the front page, you read the cartoons, and that's it. Is that really worth the money? Like, if you got a newspaper subscription, you're paying as much for that as you're paying probably, or nearly so, for your internet connection. You can get all of that stuff on the internet. These newspapers even have their own websites where you can read half the articles. As far as the cartoons, go to the cartoonist website. They're going to be posting stuff. You want to read Dilbert? You want to read Garfield? By the way, I do like Garfield and Dilbert a lot. Garfield's my favorite. I will say that. I'm a Garfield fan. I'm a Jim Davis fan. You know, having a cat that scarfs down pan after pan of lasagna, that's pretty funny to me. Although he really needs to take it back to the older wave of Garfield, where Garfield was kind of an asshole, and he was always kicking the dog and like making suggestive comments to Arlene and stuff like that, and tormenting John. And by the way, if you want something, if you like Garfield, you'll love Garfield minus Garfield. Just Google it. You'll know what I'm saying. It's about John having nervous breakdowns on a daily basis, essentially, speaking to himself. He's talking to the voices in his head, basically. But keep that in mind. The press is more than just the corporate press. Journalism degree just means that people might be more comfy giving you an interview. Otherwise, it doesn't matter. The new wave of the media, the much more efficient, cost-effective, much wider audience, worldwide audience for a fraction of the cost. The new media, it's all online. Even like CNN and Fox, they know this. It's why they have websites. Why do you think they had to be pressured by people to even adopt web platforms? And most of them, they're fairly recent arrivals on the internet at all. You remember CNN's website a few years ago, how primitive it looked? Because they didn't really bother. Now they realize, oh, we're getting more views online than we get on TV, and it costs so much less. We can have advertising revenue and stuff. We're going to start on YouTube's streaming bundle and Hulu and all this stuff. Go on Netflix and have some shows on there because they know it makes them money. And that's the real free press. The real free press is the people. It's by the people for the people, essentially. The people who are unfettered by some corporate entity, by some multinational entanglement, by corporate donations, speaking about issues that matter to them, that they happen to be at least semi-knowledgeable about. And yeah, that means you get a lot of weird clickbait. It means you get stuff that's totally not informative, where people are totally shooting from the hip, don't know what the fuck they're talking about. But that's the free exchange of information. You can choose to listen to it or not. If you don't like their video, their blog, you close it out. It's as simple as that. It's so much better than anything on cable. I mean, I know people who watch cable stuff. I'm like, why? There's nothing on there. There's nothing entertaining. None of the so-called entertainment's entertaining. None of the so-called informative material's informative. It's all just mind-numbed. You sit there drooling on yourself watching it. They used to refer in a derisive manner to that sort of stuff. It's the boob tube. You know, you zone out. You're like a vegetable, a couch potato. They had, back when I was a kid, the stereotype was people they watch too much TV. They're wasting their lives. It's not real. Go read a book. Now they say, now the cable people and the establishment politicians, they do the same thing, but they prop up cable. They're like, oh, you should be watching the cable news. Oh, the internet's not real. This is a bunch of lies and fake news and like propaganda from Russia and stuff like that. Go watch TV. Go mind numb yourself. You'd be better off reading a book than watching cable. Reading books is fun. I make a decent living doing that myself. But the internet's way better than cable. It's interactive. You know, you don't like the material, you can either close it out immediately or you can comment on it, say why you don't agree with it. Isn't that way better than like shooting off an email to some PR representative from Fox or MSNBC that might or might not get back to you? Yeah, I would think it would be. That's about all. Peace out.